Hello, everyone. We have a incredibly special live event for you tonight. We are going to be having a screening, a live premiere of the cartoonmentary, the Unspoken Cartoonmentary from Chari Pere. This is, here she is. She's coming on. This is looking forward to for a really long time. Chari is an incredibly talented, wonderfully amazing artist, person, um, documentarist. She is just in every possible way. Chari has just she's really taken her talent for art and she's combined that with her talent for storytelling and add that together with, unfortunately, a story of loss and a story of miscarriage. And we have this incredible event here tonight. Chari, say hello.
Hi, everyone.
Um, okay, so for those people who don't know who you are, tell people all about, give us a little bit of a window into your background. And in about 5 minutes or so, we're actually going to do the live screening, I shouldn't say screening, the live premiere. So give us let's do a little background first so everybody knows exactly who you are and what we're going to be watching. And then we'll have a whole discussion afterwards.
Sure, no problem. So I'm a cartoonist. I graduated from the School of Visual Arts to do this professionally. And I have a background in advertising and in comedy. So I used to intern at Mad Magazine. I do a lot of comedic comic strips. I've worked with different organizations to do that. And I've also had a history of working in advertising. I worked on the Red Bull account. I was a creative director for commercials for Disney and FIFA and Kim Kardashian Hollywood. My main passion, though, is to use my cartoons to bring good into the world, to use my powers for good. So I've done coloring books for kids with diabetes. I've done comics about bully prevention. I've done social action comics about Agunot, women who can't get their Jewish divorce document from abusive spouses. And I've collaborated with authors like Gretchen Rubin to do comics for the Happiness Project. And so I have a wide range of what I like to do. And about 10 years ago, I had my miscarriage. And of course, I had to tell my story because when I went through my experience, I couldn't find any resource that felt sufficient for me to feel like I can make it through on my own. Nobody was really talking about it. And, I'm very open with my experiences. I believe that if you go through something difficult, it's just so valuable to help others going through that. That's, turn any trauma or any horrible experience into art so you can help others. So I put my miscarriage experience into a comic, and actress Maya Bialik has been very supportive of my project. She launched it, and it was able to help thousands of people. I still get emails from people who, unfortunately, miscarriages are something they're ongoing. So as more people go through it, I get messages, thank you for having this comic. It was a resource that got me through a difficult time. And it's a series I had created two other comics in the series, one about a husband's perspective called Michael's Miscarriage, which actually came from a fan of my first comic. And then I have a story that was featured with you previously with Donnie Weiss Bronstein about a Down syndrome diagnosis. And I was in the middle of working on my fourth comic when I had actually a difficult pregnancy. I had postpartum depression. I was going to pick up and work on it in like March 2020, and then COVID happened. So I put the project aside for a number of years. And I've been very fortunate to receive a fellowship for the Jewish Writers Foundation, Jewish Writers Initiative, Digital Storytellers Lab. And they're supporting me to actually turn my comics into animated shorts, which is something I've been trying to do for 7 years now since it was released May 2017. So for 7 years, I've been trying to turn my comics into animated shorts because it's, a different form of help engaging in people. And here we are.
And here we are. So just to frame this for everyone. So you got married when and at what point, like at how many years ago, and at what point you said that the miscarriage happened 10 years ago. So at what point in your fertility journey in terms of building your family, at what point did the miscarriage happen?
So I got married in 2010, and to a voiceover actor who actually does the voices. He's my casting director. He's my editor for my comics. My husband, Ellie Schiff. Hi, Ellie.
Hi, Ellie.
Um, so he helped me cast all the voices. He recorded, and he's the lead in the next video. I'm working on the second video for Michael's Miscarriage. Currently, it's in development. But we were married in 2010, and we had our first child in 2012, in October 2012. And I always dreamed of having kids 2 years apart. It just was something I always wanted. And so I was on track to have kids, 2 years apart. And then I had my miscarriage in May 2014. And it was not what I expected would happen. And
Yeah.
considering how easy the first pregnancy was, didn't realize what was in store and the emotional and physical toll it would take. And, I'm very grateful. I was able to have my other child I was able to get pregnant a couple months afterwards. And so my kids are 2.5 years apart. But, you think of the dreams that you have and that what you lose when your pregnancy isn't viable and you really want the pregnancy. And, I have friends and know plenty of people have secondary infertility who haven't been able to have kids at all.
Yep.
It's I want to give a voice to everybody. In my cartoon series, I hope to expand and address many different topics just so that everybody in their individual situations knows that this is not their fault, and this is to know that they're not alone. When you're alone in the middle of the night and you have no one to talk to and you're down, like, I hope these videos can help people to realize that other people are going through exactly what you're going through and have come out of it. And so that's the whole purpose of the project.
Amazing. Okay, and I think that that's the perfect segue. Let's go straight to the premiere. And the way we're going to do this, welcome to amazing Instagram technology. It's so amazing. The way we're going to do this is I'm actually going to flip my camera around and we're going to be watching the premiere on my laptop. So here we go.
Oh, so excited.
Here we go.
Seven
Here we
years in
go.
the
Here we go.
My husband and I always wanted to have children close in age.
I was thinking it might be time for another baby.
Me too. You're pregnant.
Amazing.
My first ultrasound at 8 weeks one day was fine.
Baby has a strong heartbeat.
Doctor, I've been having some light spotting though.
Unless it's bright red, there's no need to worry.
At the first drop of bright red blood, I called the doctor. Hi, I'd like to make an appointment.
The earliest appointment is in 5 days.
5 days? That's too long. I was also nervous because the morning of the ultrasound, my husband was leaving on a 5-day business trip.
Are you sure you'll be okay?
Everything's probably fine. I just want to be 100% certain. At the appointment, the ultrasound started off pretty routine.
There's the heartbeat. I'll take some photos to send to the doctor.
Phew. Hey, Doc, I'm sorry I took up your time.
Unfortunately, Sherry, you're probably going to miscarry.
What? I called my husband, whose flight was delayed.
Should I skip the business trip?
No, there's nothing to do. Plus, there's still a chance that everything's okay. I was referred to a specialist who fit me in right away.
Well, in 2 weeks, we'll take a test to confirm if there's an abnormality. If it's positive, then you'll have to make some decisions.
Decisions? Like abortion? That night was Shabbat, the Jewish Sabbath. As an Orthodox Jew, I don't work or use electricity, like making phone calls. So when I woke up Saturday morning with a bright red clump of blood in my underwear, I started to panic. I went straight to my neighbor.
Call the doctor. If you won't, I will.
You're right. I'll call.
Your body's taking care of the situation. There's nothing to do but wait.
So I waited. On the morning of day 5, I woke up with severe cramps. Ow! Oh my God. What do I do? My hand decided for me. The second the office opened, I called my doctor.
I'm sorry, but the office is moving. There are no doctors in today.
I just need an ultrasound. Finally, another receptionist picked up.
I'm sorry, there's no doctor in today. Who's that? A patient, Chari Pere. I need to see her now.
I headed right over.
Let's take a look. There's nothing there.
Oh, thank God. No decisions to make. It's finally over. That night, my husband came home and was finally able to let it all out. After that, nothing was forcing me to keep it together. So why am I sharing this story? For me, keeping my miscarriage a secret made it worse. I would have felt so much less of a failure if I knew how common it was. Up to 25% of known pregnancies end in miscarriage. In fact, almost all of our biblical matriarchs had suffered from some form of infertility, going all the way back to Hagar, the first known miscarriage. 2 months later, we were pregnant again. After 9 months of paranoia, I was grateful to give birth to a beautiful, healthy baby girl. She's perfect. Bringing new life into this world can be scary. Sometimes things don't go according to plan. The more we talk about things, the less scary they become. Nobody should be suffering alone.
I Shari, I that was incredible.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for sharing it. Like, I'm really, I created this to help people. So the more people see it, the more we can help. And even if you're not going through it right now, but you know somebody who does, it helps the people help other people too.
I there there is there is so much power in the telling of stories, right? I mean, there is so much power there. And the reality is that, like, sometimes people say things to me like, oh, I had a miscarriage, or I already know someone who had a miscarriage. Like, why do I need to hear another story? Why do I need to hear it again? I have my answer. I'm curious what you would say to that.
Oh, to hear another story, you mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, every experience is different, honestly, and there's a lesson to be learned from each and every story. And, it really just, there's power in numbers. And, it really is a 1 in 4 statistic. It's something that so many of us have to go through, unfortunately. And the more you talk about things, the more normal it became. I was really lucky that I had exactly 3 friends who told me that they had had miscarriages prior to mine. And so there are people who I reached out to when I was going through my experience. And then afterwards, everybody's like, "Oh yeah, I had to. I had to." It makes me mad. Like, if everybody had just talked about it, then the anger and the emotion didn't have to be contained. It could be shared, and you can't take away the physical pain and then the dreams that are no longer viable, but you can certainly ease the emotional pain and heal faster.
1,000%. And I also always think that, there is what to be gained, exactly what you just said. There's what to be gained by hearing different people's versions, because every experience, while yes, it is so common. Yes, it is 1 in 4 pregnancies. Yes, if it's not happening to you, it's happening to someone that you love, someone that is in your life. But hearing the different nuances for some people, even talking about first trimester loss, there's so many different kinds of situations. And to know that any kind of issue, whether it's a chemical pregnancy, which is 5 seconds, you found out you're pregnant and then 5 seconds later you're not pregnant, or having a miscarriage before seeing the heartbeat, having a miscarriage after seeing the heartbeat, there are so many different nuances. And also there are different ways that people decide, or it's decided for them, on how that pregnancy is going to end and how it's going to be taken out of their body. And so hearing those different variations I believe, are so deeply important. And all decisions that people make and all things that happen to people, whether they're in your control or not, are always important to share, always. Um, I'd love to hear a little bit more about the process. I think people would want to hear a little bit more about the process of how you create something like this. Like, where does it start? I know you have the comic, that is the base, and that is, that is your, that is the piece that you immediately put out. How does one go from a comic to this? How do you do that? Take us through a little bit of the process.
So my comics, I worked on them a while ago, so they're all digital. So some things are in different layers and some things are not. So I basically had to go through the whole process of first adapting the script, because my comic is
Yep.
longer. I thought, like, the video is literally half of my script. I cut out a lot of the story, a lot of the supporting characters in my life who helped me through, and just told the essence. So first you have to adapt the script into something I thought honestly was gonna be like 2.5 minutes. Ended up being 5 minutes. So, this is my first time. Previously, I've written commercials that are 15 to 30 seconds long.
Right.
This is the first time I was using my own assets. I have my own artwork. So I first have to write the script, and then I had to go through each comic and separate the frames I was using, and then divide, separate the characters from it. So sometimes there's a big empty space in the background that now I have to paint in all the backgrounds. So I did that on Procreate on my iPad. Each character had to individually break down the joints so that they could move, add more expressions, make sure that the bodies were whole, because I'm taking torsos, I'm taking heads,
Right.
and sometimes a hand that needs to be added to the scene. So I'm breaking down each character into assets that my animator can work on. Throughout all of this, I have the support of my fellowship and some mentors. One of my closest friends from the School of Visual Arts, who I also worked with at my last job at my marketing agency. My friend Vincent Scala, he went over the whole script and gave me feedback and suggestions on how to make this happen. Because again, I've never animated my own stuff. It's like it's starting at a blank page and trying to figure it all out. And then one of my animators also at my last company that unfortunately had folded up. We were a tight knit team, so I had one of the best animators from there. My friend Ricardo Calero. I would finish a frame and I would send it to him, and he would animate. And so I'm trying to be a little bit ahead of him so he would have a frame to animate. And then every week we would meet and he would show me where he's at, and I would send that to my entire team, the fellowship, my mentors, get feedback. And then we did a draft, and then he would do his edits. And then it was a little bit hard to hear over Instagram, but there's music and sound effects that had to be added to that. So I encourage you all, if you can visit my website, the YouTube page, you can hear like in all the quality and all its glory. But all that had to be added in the end. The credits had to be added, and the whole process actually took just under 2 months, which
Wow.
was crazy.
I was going to say that is crazy. That's completely crazy. I mean, we're going to share all of the links and all of the things so that people can listen and watch it in their own time, and they can hear the richness of everything, obviously, that doesn't get communicated over primitive technology. But I'm curious about why now? Like, why was the aim that you wanted it to premiere around Mother's Day? Why was that important to you?
A whole number of reasons. I mean, the first and most obvious, reason is that it involves motherhood and what motherhood means to different people, and their experiences are all different. So I wanted this to be there for support for people who Mother's Day is not the easiest of weekends. It is not the easiest time. Maybe, it's something that's not looked forward to for a number of reasons. So I want this to be at least one resource that is there in time for that. And also, this month marks the 10th year of my miscarriage and the 7th anniversary of the comic being launched through Maya and Bialik's help. So it for all the reasons, that's why I'm releasing it right now. And I've been trying to get it. I had some grants that ended up in some partnerships that it just didn't. It fell through to turn it into an animated, film sooner. But I think that my 5-6 years in marketing was something I didn't have when I started my first comic, and it's skills that really helped me being able to do this on my own now without having to partner with anybody else, with me being able to creative direct and find the right people to animate and find the right people to mentor. And the fellowship has just been phenomenal, and then the other fellows have their input and their background and experience. So it was really a surprise. It was a lot of work, but a surprisingly smooth process to start the video in middle of February and have it done in time for this premiere.
Incredible. And can you tell us more about your own relationship to being a mother and Mother's Day, and like just your emotions surrounding it? Like, how did you relate to the day, prior to your miscarriage? What did the miscarriage change about your feelings about being the mother? And then, you had your daughter shortly thereafter. Thank God, thank God. But like, being that, this is around the anniversary, it's in May. May is always when Mother's Day falls out. Like, what does that bring up for you? What has it brought up, and what has changed over the years?
Actually, when I think of my miscarriage, I think of Father's Day because I was still pregnant and dealing with the miscarriage during my Mother's Day experience. It was just afterwards. But Father's Day, I remember going to get coffee for my husband to surprise him with his favorite hazelnut drink. And there was someone who had a kid around the same time that I had my first, and she was visibly pregnant. And I remember thinking, I'm not, and why does she get to have the baby and not me? So I'm very sympathetic and empathetic for these holidays and what they mean to other people, because someone might be smiling and keeping it in. So I try to, I'm now back on the East Coast. When I started the project, I was on the West Coast. Now we're back with family. So we've been spending Mother's Day for the last few years, visiting grandmothers and parents. And so it's very a busy day for us these years, for us right now. But I'm certainly more conscious about what other people are going through. So I try to enjoy Mother's Day in all its glory and all the breakfasts and the food and the gifts that my kids give me, but always try to be a little bit mindful that not everybody has the same experience.
And what kinds of feedback have you heard from the comic? Like, what have people shared with you? You mentioned a few pieces already. What do you feel is the most impactful? What are the things that people are saying to you that have really stuck with you and made you feel like, yes, this is exactly what I need to do, and really kind of gave you the chizuk, like gave you the strength to move on and to turn this into a cartoon?
Uh, Yeah, I mean, I have multiple friendships now of people who shortly after my comic was released, I was invited to speak at Limud UK, which is a week-long program in England where people come and teach workshops, and you come, lots of Jews, so many come from all over the world to talk to unite. And so I gave some workshops based on my two existing comics at the time. And one person came straight to me and said, I had to be here for your session because the week that I had my miscarriage, your comic came out and helped me get through. And she's had, difficulties and successes, thank goodness, in having children. But I get emails from people still, last year, this year, I just had my miscarriage and I remembered your comic. So I looked at it and it was really helpful. Thank you. I have someone else also who had issues and now, at a differently moved, there's another couple who the husband and wife both just reiterated that their comics helped them. But the comics helped them through a difficult time. That's what it's for. It's for anybody who needs it and anybody who wants to understand. Maybe they don't know anyone who's gone through this, but anybody who just wants to have a greater understanding. What's great about cartoons is that it's very iconic. When you have a film, you see actors, and these are people. But when you're a cartoon, what we're taught what I was definitely taught at the School of Visual Arts is that you're supposed to try to imagine yourself as the main character. And so I draw cartoons that are simple, but, relatable. They're universal. It's a style that I hope is universally pleasing. And I try to make it feel like no matter who you are, you're hearing the voice of the narrator. You're the narrator. You're me in this comic. You're going to be Michael in the next one. You're going to be Donnie in the next one. Like you are going through this with your own eyes and your own experience. So that's what I hope will happen. And I feel like people have told me that it's helped them.
And talk to me about the decision to specifically put in the Jewish elements into the cartoon, and which specific elements you chose and which you left out from the graphic, from the comic. I'm like losing my words here, from the comic translated to the cartoon. Talk to me about those decisions.
So actually, the big part for me, the big part of my story that showed how, Jewish I am and how Judaism impacted me was I had my heavy bleeding on a Shabbat morning. And
Right.
I'm an Orthodox Jew, and I know that you're supposed to break Shabbos, but I'm like, I don't know. Everybody seems to tell me, the doctors seem to be laissez-faire about this. Is it something I need to call? Like, they're telling me this is what's happening, but is it emergency? I have no idea. And I have no idea why my light keeps going in and out. So apologies.
It's all good.
But so I'm always been very open. My dad loved comics and got me into comics, and it's something we discussed at our Shabbat table and joking around and telling stories and storytelling is a very naturally Jewish thing. And then specifically for the fellowship, they want me to create content that will help people who are Jewish. And so my workshops, actually, I had workshops based on lessons from the Torah dealing with fertility issues. So I incorporated, I'm trying to make a 5-minute short. I was trying to make a 2.5-minute short here, but I have a 5.5-minute short here. So there's only so much I want. Like I wanted to give everybody a taste, and if they want to look deeper into it and see the Jewish roots and the halachas about, abortion, if they want to have, halachas about Shabbat and emergencies, if they want to learn about the imahot, the matriarchs, and their fertility experiences, they can use my video as a jumping off point. But I just wanted to throw a little taste of everything out there along the way with my experience.
And I'm curious whether, this maybe it's too soon, obviously, because we just premiered it now, but I'm curious whether even, when the cartoon itself came out, whether there was any pushback in terms of being that the cartoon had a Jewish flavor to it. Was there any pushback? In today's day and age, it's very different than 2017. But I'm just curious about the feedback.
I don't remember there being anything. I try to do it in a way where present being Jewish is totally normal. Like it was just part of the story.
Yep.
Like I try not to focus on it. I just present it as a matter of fact. I did have like I did notice that now I had a Newsweek op-ed, and then like a third of the comments were like, "Stupid Jewish person, like you break your life is in danger. You should know to call." I'm like, yeah, I just like want to address what the process is in someone's head when you're going through this. Like, obviously, I made it clear that I did call because I did think it was an emergency, but as someone who's an Orthodox Jew, this is my inner thought process.
Totally.
This is the thing that you're not seeing me talk about regularly when I discuss my miscarriage.
Totally.
This is something that was going on in my head. And if it's going on in your head, then I hope that this helps you make your decision in the future about how you want to handle, God forbid, anybody should go through it. But if you're through it, this is what I did, and do with it what you will.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I guess in closing here, what advice would you give to the person or the family out there that are dealing with a miscarriage, and are trying to figure out for them how to manage, like who should they reach out to, get support, not get support, who's a safe person, who's not a safe person? I mean, in your own experience, and also just the numbers, the hundreds and thousands of people that you've come across in both your the way you've disseminated your cartoon previously, and then the different workshops and the different teachings that you've done, what do people say to you that has been most helpful for them?
There are a lot of questions to answer there, so I'll try to do my best to remember
I
them all. But
you're getting tested on all of that afterwards. I'm just letting you know.
um, so now it made me forget them.
So, the general overarching advice that you've heard from people as they've
Right.
interacted
Yeah.
with your,
I mean,
yeah.
the important thing is to find your people, and also, there are going to be two types of people. There are going to be people who are going to tell you to suck it up and move on, and then there are going to be people who have a little bit more empathy, and you have to think in your head of when people respond to you and tell you how to react, or try to use words, you'll know what works and what doesn't, and gravitate towards the people who make you feel better and want to heal faster. So, I really appreciated the people who came over with ice cream, who helped make some food, who told me what episodes of TV to watch. And it's on that topic, by the way, I do not recommend, if you're like bleeding through a miscarriage, to watch the Red Wedding episode of Game of Thrones. Not a good idea. And also start watching Call the Midwife for the first time, because I've been told I would love that show, have not been able to go back and really get into it.
But
Maybe
by
I
the
will
way,
eventually.
I have not been able to deal with it either, and I am many, many years post miscarriage, so I don't watch that either.
Yeah.
Yep, I hear you.
Game of Thrones, for some reason, I was able to move past because it's not pregnancy centered, but I guess Call the Midwife just was not the great fit when I'm
Yeah,
lying on the bed
yeah,
bleeding out. Like, just not okay.
yeah.
So
Just no.
you find by
Just no.
trial and error.
Yeah, just
Sorry?
no. Just no.
Yeah. So you find by trial and error who helps, and your reaction is different than their reaction. So something that helps from one person, it might not help you. So also the important thing is to give yourself grace. I mentioned in my comic, like, I did research and that was making me feel well, but my husband needed to play video games and to not think about it, and that's how he coped with that. And that's okay. Like, and I remember that whole next month I was a zombie. And then, thank God, and I'm very grateful that I was able to get pregnant right away, and totally paranoid that pregnancy, every minute of that pregnancy. But you have to give yourself grace so that as to not stress yourself out more. Do what heals you and doesn't hurt you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's exactly what we always say. And I look, I'm deeply indebted to you for allowing us the opportunity to share this incredible cartoonmentary. By the way, is that a word you made up, or is that a word that exists in Webster, I guess?
No,
Tell me.
I made it up. I kept calling it a cartoon documentary, and eventually I like thinking of fun words, so I
I
just
love
kind of
it.
like went with it.
I love it. I love it. Webster's needs to pick it up, clearly. I mean, they can pick up all these other slang words that are out there. They can pick this up too. I think it's a beautiful way of really just describing everything that you've done here and what you have planned for. So tell people about, you already told us you have, the Michael story that's coming next, and you have a whole series, you're developing a whole series of these cartoonmentaries. Just tell people, as we're closing, tell people a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the fellowship that I am on, I'm planning to release 4 videos this year. 3 of my existing comics, and the one comic I was in the middle of working on and starting in 2019. I've literally put the script aside for 4 years about one woman's experience, how she could only get pregnant by IVF. She had one healthy baby. Her dream was to have twin girls, and unfortunately, she had a twin girl pregnancy, and then twin A was dying, and they had to terminate to save twin B. And it's a story that I've been trying to tell it for 4 years, and it's finally going to happen. I hope that in the future, I would love to partner with organizations or funders who would want to continue the series, because my dream would be to tackle all related topics: stillbirth, secondary infertility, postpartum depression, whatever I can think of, and eventually expand. I would love to tell stories about kids out of utero and dealing with ADHD or autism, or what it's like, for any of these issues, just to have somebody's experience for you to really understand what other people go through, or what you go through, with so many of these issues that we have.
I think that
So that's
sounds like
that's the goal.
I
Yeah.
no, I think that sounds like an incredible idea. I mean, there is something so powerful about, the images and the moving images here. I mean, there's just, it brings stories to life. I mean, in a really incredibly powerful way. um Sherry, you should just have a lot of just nachas with all of this, and be able to give more of your stories and more of your work out into the world and to help more people. I'm so grateful that we got a chance to partner with you today to be able to share this. And we will, when we publish this and when this goes also on our podcast next week, we're going to share all the links to your YouTube channel and to this specific premiere that we did tonight, Miscarried, so everybody can get a chance to see your work again and hear all of the rich visual effects that we were not able to deal with in terms of technology tonight. But Chari, thank you so, so much, so much.
Thank you. Yeah, and you can view the rest of the existing comics and the full cartoonmentary story on my website on charipere.com. The specific link will be charipere.com/unspoken cartoons. And I also am debuting a swag store. So if anybody wants to support the project, please feel free to order t-shirts, mugs, pillows. I'll be adding more products also throughout the year. And it'll all go towards creating more of these comics and cartoonmentaries.
Amazing. You should just have a lot of success, a lot of success. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. Always great to see you, Aimee. Thank you for everybody who joined so late at night on the East Coast.
Thank you. Thank you. Good night, everybody.